I still remember that night when I was sitting in a bar with a friend. We were chatting and laughing, until my eyes fell on a girl. In an instant, I felt like I had seen an angel. My heart started pounding and I thought, I have to go talk to her. But as soon as I thought that, my mind began to fill with doubts. What if she's already with someone? I have no idea what to say to her. Maybe she doesn't want to be disturbed. What if I make a fool of myself? 1,000 useless thoughts paralyzed me, but in the end one prevailed over all of them. If I don't try, I'll regret it all night. So I stopped for a moment and asked myself, what's the worst that could happen? Then I stood up, walked over to her, and just said what was on my mind. Hey, how's it going? I felt like I was going to regret it all night if I didn't come over to say hello. Two things happened immediately. First, I felt incredibly relieved. I wasn't trying to look cool or say something perfect, I was just being honest about what was on my mind. Second, she responded positively. We started flirting, she bought me a drink thanks to the bartender, and the conversation flowed naturally. All of this because I had stopped faking my confidence and had simply shown myself for who I was. Since that night, I have adopted this approach in all my interactions with women: no acting, no masks, just authenticity. I have learned that any other strategy is just a way of hiding behind an illusion of safety. Speaking of authenticity, I want to tell you something interesting. Some time ago, I read a study on the psychology of laughter. It analyzed how each person develops their own way of laughing and how this evolves over time. To make a long story short, there are two main types of laughter: the loud and confident one, and the more contained and discreet one. If we go back thousands of years, in tribal societies, the strongest and most confident men laughed without fear, with a powerful and thunderous laugh. On the contrary, those who felt weaker or insecure tended to laugh softly, so as not to draw too much attention to themselves. Today, society and education have accustomed us to laugh in a more controlled way, often because laughing too loud is considered impolite. But what struck me most in the study was another detail: our laughter is not innate, but develops and can be modified, just like body language or the accent with which we speak. This means that, if we want, we can transform our laughter into a stronger and more confident one. I know this may seem like strange advice, but trust me, if you start practicing laughing more forcefully and naturally, you will notice a big change in your social life and in the way people perceive you, especially women. Laughter is one of the most powerful elements in attraction. If a woman has a sweet and contagious laugh, a man is instinctively attracted to her. Likewise, a woman will be attracted to a man with a strong and confident laugh, because she will subconsciously associate it with self-confidence and charisma. I know most people will never try to change their way of laughing because it seems like a strange idea, but I have always been curious to experiment. The day I read that study, I decided to give it a try. I remember being out with friends and laughing harder and more openly. They looked at me in surprise and asked me why I was laughing like that. I explained to them what I had read and how a powerful laugh was a sign of confidence and presence. At that point, one of my friends looked at me and said with conviction, "No, if you want to have a real presence and be respected, you have to laugh less. Being serious will give you more authority." When I heard those words, I felt a sense of anger. Not because I had spent an entire night reading a 150-page PDF on the subject only to be told that I was wrong, but because they reflected a larger problem: the widespread idea in our society that being always serious is synonymous with strength. Movies and TV series have built the image of the gang leader or the tough guy, who never laughs, making many believe that to be respected you have to keep an unruffled expression and never let yourself go. But stop for a moment and think about someone you know who is always serious. Do you feel like spending time with them? In most cases, the answer is no. Often these people have few friends and little social interaction, precisely because their excessive seriousness becomes a barrier. This does not only concern relationships with women, but with anyone. The lack of spontaneity and lightness is like a virus that poisons your social life. When interacting with a woman, you need to be spontaneous. You shouldn't overload yourself with thoughts or worry too much about what to say. Being natural and living in the moment is one of the most important qualities not only to attract women, but also to lead a more peaceful and happy life. If you think back to all the times you managed to get a girl's attention, you will probably realize that it happened in moments when you were relaxed and not trying to impress her at all costs. So, back to the main point. Whenever you feel the need to sound cool or overly confident, remember me and let go of those useless thoughts. Women are attracted to a man who is comfortable with himself, who doesn't take himself too seriously, who knows how to laugh and enjoy life. Always remember that they are reading you, analyzing your attitude and deciding, often subconsciously, how to feel about you. If they sense that you are not being completely sincere or that you are putting on an act, they will know right away. This is reflected in your body language, the tone of your voice, and every little reaction you have during the conversation. The goal, then, is to create an authentic and interesting interaction, which allows her to feel comfortable with you. This is the heart of a natural approach. Now, since I started this series on how to attract a woman, one of the questions I get asked the most is, what should I say when approaching a girl? I have always given examples of phrases and ways to break the ice, and many have found them useful. But in reality, none of these phrases solve the root problem. The real problem is that many men feel nervous and think they have to hide this insecurity behind elaborate words. They believe they have to say something extraordinary to compensate for the fear they feel. But if you continue to think this way, years from now you will still find yourself in the same situation, unable to talk to a woman in a relaxed way. After trying hundreds of pickup lines over the years, I've learned that the most effective one is also the simplest. Today, when I see a girl I like, I walk up to her and say, "Hey, you're cute. I wanted to get to know you." I introduce myself and tell her openly why I decided to talk to her. This is the real authentic approach. I don't hide my intentions, I don't pretend not to be attracted to her. In fact, I want her to know. Why should I be ashamed of it? Why should I hide what I want? Why should I create obstacles for myself? Now, I know that those of you who have followed my advice so far might be surprised. I often say not to give a girl gratuitous validation, not to shower her with compliments, and not to show your interest too openly. But there is a fundamental difference between flattery and shameless interest. And today I want to explain that distinction to you. When I talk to a girl I like, one of the first things I ask is, "Do you have a girlfriend?" The question has a clear and direct intention. I ask because I am interested in getting to know her, and I want this to be obvious. I do not hide behind psychological games or complicated strategies. Plus, I always find new and fun ways to let her know I like her, like, "You are incredibly adorable, I already know I'm going to like you. Should we skip everything and just get married?" If you're trying to make me fall in love, know that it's working. These phrases can be used both when you meet a girl for the first time, or on a date or in a more informal context. If you already know her, perhaps because she is a colleague or a classmate, you can wait until you are in a more personal context before using this approach. One of the main reasons why so many men end up in those ambiguous situations, where they don't know if a girl really likes them or not, is the fear of being direct. Being clear from the beginning helps you avoid all those gray areas and makes the situation clear, either black or white. And the best part? You don't need any special tricks, no elaborate strategies. Just honesty and self-confidence. Sure, it requires a little courage. But know that women are attracted to courage. Always. Now, here's a key detail. Being direct and showing interest doesn't mean you seem desperate or completely sold out on the idea of winning her over. And here comes into play another principle that we'll talk about in a moment. If a girl is even a little attractive, she probably has a pretty high ego. This means that when you talk to her, she already assumes that you are interested in her. If you try to hide your attraction, you will end up looking insecure and unnatural, or you will find yourself in the infamous friend zone. So, there is nothing wrong with letting her know that you are attracted to her. The point is another: you do not have to show her that you want her completely. Listen carefully to this golden rule, because it is essential. You can let her know that you like her, but you do not have to give the impression that she has already managed to win you over completely. For example, you can say something like, "I like your haircut." It is a light phrase, said without too much emphasis. Likewise, if there is something that does not convince you, you can point it out without any problems. But be careful, this doesn't mean you should randomly compliment her. There's a big difference between showing unashamed interest and simply giving a compliment. If you say, "I like your haircut," you're showing direct interest. But if you say, "You have great hair," that sounds like a generic compliment, something she's probably heard 1,000 times before. If you give traditional compliments, you send out two negative signals. You unknowingly put yourself in the friend zone, because compliments are usually given by friends, and you give the impression that you're not confident, like you can't openly express your interest. That's the difference between a friend and a lover. A lover says, "I'm interested in you." A friend says, "You're beautiful." Always remember this distinction when you talk to a girl. Don't give her gratuitous compliments. If there's something that strikes you about her, point it out with interest, but without exaggerating. You can also add a small detail so you don't seem completely won over. "You have nice hair, but I usually prefer blondes." I've talked about this in other videos, but it's always worth highlighting. Another key thing to understand is that the words you say matter much less than what you think. Female attraction is not just about what you say, but how you say it and how you make her feel. If you walk up to a girl and say, "I like you and I want to get to know you," in a confident, relaxed tone, you convey confidence and ease. You show her that you are not obsessed with her judgment and that you are not afraid to express yourself. Attraction is 80–90% nonverbal. What really matters is subcommunication, the tone of your voice, your body language, the way you look at her, the rhythm of your breathing. Subcommunication speaks directly to the female subconscious, the place where attraction and desire are born. Remember how I talked in previous videos about how women are attracted to men who other women want? Men who have options behave completely differently than men who don't. Men with options assume that women are attracted to them. They're used to women being interested, so when they meet a new girl, they assume she's interested. What if she's not? They don't make a big deal out of it. They don't get upset, they don't get offended, they don't try desperately to convince her. In contrast, men who don't have many options tend to believe that women don't like them. This is because, in their experience, women have never found them very attractive. So when they find a girl who shows even a little interest, they cling to her. Deep down, they don't really believe that they deserve the women they want, so they try to compensate by overcompensating. But have you ever noticed that the more you try to get a girl, the less interested she seems? This is because people who try too hard are subconsciously communicating that they have no options. And women are not attracted to men who have no options. I say this often because it is one of the most important lessons we can learn. Women want men with options. And men with options assume women are interested. If you adopted this mindset, your interaction would change completely. You would walk up to a girl, look her in the eye, and calmly say, "You're cute. What's your name?" If you feel like adding something more unique or fun, go ahead, but only if you really mean it. Sincerity shines through in nonverbal communication, and if you try to appear to be something you're not, she'll sense it right away. If you're insecure or nervous, don't complicate your life by trying to say the perfect sentence. Simply introduce yourself and tell her why you're there. Make your goal not just to win her over, but also to find out if she's interesting and worth your time. Any excessive effort, any attempt to prove your worth, will turn into a boomerang. Attraction doesn't come from a perfect speech, but from the energy you transmit when you talk to her. What you say is not really important and probably won't even be remembered. What will be remembered is how you presented yourself and, most importantly, how you made her feel. By the way, do you remember the story I told you at the beginning? Well, it actually didn't go that way. The one who approached that girl wasn't me, but a friend of mine who was with me. My story, however, ended while I was still there thinking about what to say. And so that night ended without the girl and without my friend. I deeply regretted having missed that opportunity, but at the same time I learned a lot from that experience. And if my mistake can help someone else understand and benefit from it, then, all in all, I'm almost glad I made it. So, please, don't be like me, friend.